They've been in business for over a decade, and they still don't know what they're doing. I guess a podcast seemed natural. Here's FounderQuest.
Well, Josh, I did something this morning that I haven't done in over 6 years. Do you want to guess what that was?
I have no guesses. What did you do?
I updated my personal website.
Wow.
Yeah. I actually wrote a blog post and I updated some of the layout a little bit, did some tweaks.
I was going to ask, did you redesign it in the process?
Well, I was tempted. I certainly was. So it's running Jekyll and it hasn't been updated since Ruby 2.3 or whatever. And so I was like, well, is this even going to build? And so I built it, and yes, it did. And I was like, all right, well, that's fine. So should I get a new template? And I was like, no, I'll waste way too much time finding a new template, new theme. I just went with it. But the primary motivation was I needed to replace my Twitter link with a Bluesky link and Mastodon. But yeah, it's so as I was updating my site, though, I noticed the copyright was 2019. And
so it had been a while.
Yeah, the last blog post was 2018. So yeah, it was time.
Well, I appreciate your restraint in not doing the full theme overhaul. I don't know if I could have been quite as restrained.
Yeah, that was touch and go there for a minute. But I did have one snag. Netlify was a problem. So I used Netlify to deploy my site, and I did a git push, and everything was fine there. But Netlify couldn't build because the Ruby was too old. And so I had to specify a Ruby version that was actually within the last couple of years. Jekyll was great, though. I was using Jekyll 3 previously, and I just did a bundle update. I just got wild, and I installed the latest Ruby, did a bundle update, got the latest of everything, and it just worked. So props to Jekyll for that.
I do have to say that about Jekyll is that it's incredibly stable and, pretty much never changes. But that can be a good thing sometimes.
Yes, it was today, for sure.
Yeah, my site's I moved my site from Netlify to a Hetzner, a $5 Hetzner server a while back because I wanted to fiddle with CGI stuff and
totally
serious nerd stuff.
I thought for a minute this morning that I might have to do that when I saw Netlify's build failure. I was like, uh-oh, do I need to move to VPS? But I checked out the build log. I'm like, oh, I can fix that.
Yeah.
But I really felt motivated to update my site because Bluesky's awesomeness of allowing you to specify your domain name as a handle. And so I did that. I recently did that and changed it to bencurtis.com. And I was like, well, now I'm sending people to a website that hasn't been updated for 6 years. I should probably fix that. So that was the real motivation.
I mean, with all those new followers you're getting.
Well, thank you, Josh, for your starter pack that has made me at least the 5 gazillionth most popular person on Bluesky.
Yeah. So I've spent the last year and a half just exclusively living on Bluesky. That's where I've been this whole time.
Yeah.
So I know what it is and you know what it is, but I know there's some people out there that are still unaware. So Bluesky is another decentralized social media micro posting site like Twitter. It's decentralized unlike Twitter, but it's a little bit like Mastodon in that sense, except it actually feels like a cohesive application that you can just use and you don't have to jump through all the hoops that you do with Mastodon in some cases. And it just feels like the people there are very early Twitter, just the community that is formed. It's just fun. It's kind of weird being on a social media platform where people are actually just posting about the things they like and having fun and making jokes and all that. So that's what I've been appreciating about it.
Yeah, I've really been digging into that as well. I love the feeling of it's Twitter circa 2018 or something. It feels old school. It's like it used to be. I really got frustrated with Twitter when they dropped the API support. That was the thing that was my button that they pushed, because I loved Tweetbot and Twitterific and all those other clients that, they can remember your place from device to device and things like that. And I just like the timeline. And then all the algorithm stuff, I was like, I don't want to see all the things that I'm not following. And then it just got worse and worse and worse. And then the ad situation got worse.
And then they removed the de-emphasized links so that you can't even, Twitter at its core was basically a link aggregator. Everyone who started out on the platform was basically using it to share links.
Right.
And it's just ironic to me that, it would end up in a place where it's actively suppressing links to keep people on the platform. It's just become Facebook or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah, initially it was for what was your lunch today? But after 5 minutes, it was for what did you find out was cool today? And people were posting links all the time and a lot of discovery happening there. I remember like in the early days of Honey Badger, we got a lot of mileage out of just like sharing cool stuff that was happening in the Ruby community. People would forward that on and retweet that. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a bummer to see that happen over time. And Twitter was really cool because it was just like the place where everybody hung out. And that's what Bluesky feels like. So I've been doing Mastodon like you for a couple of years. And the thing about Mastodon was that while it was cool and there was cool people there, it really felt really tech heavy for me. Like the Ruby community, there were a lot of people there and that was cool.
Yeah. I still like that about it in some ways. Like if I want some hard technical takes, like I'm still going to Mastodon. If I want to learn about some like C API of the Ruby core or something, I'm probably going over there.
Yeah. But it just didn't have the broader, like everybody's there kind of vibe. It had a bunch of Ruby people and stuff.
Part of that is because a lot of the people, I won't say all the people in Mastodon, but many of the Mastodon users chased a lot of people away over the years for various reasons, including like journalists, for example. Journalists tried to do a mass migration at one point when Elon took over Twitter in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them stuck around, but for the most part, they got chased away by various factions just because Mastodon is much more balkanized than any other social media kind of platform. Which is fine. Like, they have their own culture and they don't want certain,
Yeah.
And that's cool. But I think there's something to be said for just having such a broad spectrum of topics being discussed and intermingling together, like tech people talking to journalists, talking to politicians even, or whatever, artists.
Yeah. Yeah. I really love that. Again, I forgot how much I missed that. I didn't realize how much I missed that in being in the Mastodon space. Like this morning, the thing that was in my feed on Bluesky was the Perfect 90s album. And, people were talking about Weezer and Red Hot Chili Peppers. And it's just random stuff that I'm like, oh, yeah, memories, because like that's my decade for music, just having stuff like that happening, as well as hearing from people talking about Postgres and talking about, whatevs. I just love it.
That's how Bluesky has been. So a bit of history. It initially was a project at Twitter, or at least it was conceptualized at Twitter as a way to like decentralize the Twitter protocol, basically, if I'm remembering correctly. That was the idea, but eventually, and I can't remember if it was before or after bought Twitter, but they ended up starting it outside of Twitter. But Jack Dorsey was on the board at that point and like not like super involved, but a little bit involved. And they were criticized for that by a lot of people. But as they like built out the protocol, and they did a really good job of it, and they built a lot of cool things that were like intentionally designed to make Bluesky resilient to itself, like take over by a central platform, basically. And then Jack left the board and some other people joined, like Mike Masnick, who wrote the Protocols Not Platforms, really like formative piece about social media and platforms. And yeah, they've done a really great job of executing on the whole like decentralized protocol idea. It's pretty impressive. I think we're going to hit like 20 million users if we didn't already. It was like,
I think it might be.
We've been adding like 1 million users a day over the last week or something.
It's pretty wild.
The team is like,
I think it's like 20 people.
I think it's like, I was going to say, 10 or 20. I think it's like definitely not more than 20 people scaling this. So far, they've scaled this system to 20 million users. There's been a few hitches lately, but like just recently is when I've experienced any kind of instability. And it's all like, you can tell it's like decentralized protocol stuff. A like doesn't persist for a few seconds or something. Definitely no fail whales over here. So
no fail whales, but plenty of ALF pictures.
Did you see the ALF fail whale that someone made? That was the best. Yeah, ALF is a kind of a celebrity on Bluesky. I'm not going to say why. You can go like dig. I might drop a link in the show notes. Story about it.
I haven't done that research, so I don't know the stories, but I'll have to go look it up. You've piqued my interest.
I'll put the link in the show notes and you can read it. It's like one of the best stories on the internet, in my opinion. So I'm going to tease it a little bit.
All right. Since you're the resident expert on Bluesky among us, then I want to ask you two questions. One is a pronunciation question, and one is a terminology question. So question number one on pronunciation, is it AT Proto? Is it at Proto? Is it at Protocol? I'm confused.
I don't know.
I mean, it looks cool, but I don't know how to say it.
I want to say it's AT protocol. I say at in my head. So I'm not sure.
I think at Protocol kind of makes sense since everything's all about the ats, but yeah. Okay, so question number 2 is skeets. Really?
Another part of Bluesky lore. I'm also not going to give the usual definition for skeet. Just in the defense, like there is such a thing as skeet shooting, and I used to shoot some clays as a kid. Probably still would. It's pretty fun.
I have a friend that does competitive skeet shooting, so
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So it's got multiple definitions. The story is that Jay, the CEO of Bluesky, this was like last year. People were trying to figure out what to name things. Like we were still trying to develop our own terminology and stuff. And, Mastodon has toots and Twitter has tweets or whatever the hell we're calling them now, posts. But so, skeet, I forget how do these things ever arise on the internet. Basically, like posters on the internet came up with the worst possible word to call something. And Jay, the CEO, her mistake was asking people not to call it skeets. So there's I don't know, maybe if I'm feeling ambitious, I'll go dig that one up. But it gets passed around as a screenshot of a lot of her like saying, can we please call it like, I don't know what, like scoots or other terms that could be used. And of course, that just made everyone determined to call it skeets. The best part is that they bullied Jake Tapper into saying skeet on CNN on live news because I forget, it was like a Congress person or something, but he was interviewing someone who had posted, like a politician who had posted on Bluesky and had to say the word for what a post is. And so, yeah, he read it on the air. And after that, it was basically just a legend or whatever.
Like a fait accompli at that point.
Yeah. Now AOC is backing skeet.
Oh,
so
wow. If AOC is backing skeets, then that's done, man.
People should know it's entirely a joke and it is completely optional. It is not called that in the UI. It is called post. So it's just a cultural thing.
I remember seeing Amy Hoy wade into the whole skeet debate, and she's like, let's just co-op tweet because Twitter is giving it up and let's just use that. And I'm down with that, but I'm not religious about it. I'm good with skeets.
I think, I agree with her to be like, I think it would be probably fine. And it's already like a dictionary word. And we've put so much into that word already. It seems a shame to just throw it in the trash. So I could definitely get behind that. I mean, like, this is the thing, like no one's going to convince all these people at this point to call it the same thing. So I think it's fine to have different factions.
Did we ever decide in the Mastodon universe whether something is a toot or not?
It was toot originally, and like officially.
Right.
And it got changed. Like the Mastodon team changed it to post when Mastodon, it was going through one of its first big like hype cycles, I think after the Musk acquisition.
Right.
And there was a huge exodus in fall of 2022. And it started getting like a lot of media attention and stuff. I think it was around then that they renamed it. I can't remember exactly when, but it was a big, like, all the original Mastodon users were unhappy with the change.
I like the toots myself. I thought the whole thing made sense. Like if you're it just felt like it should be a kinder, friendlier place alternative. And toot just kind of went in that whole philosophy, but I can understand why people might.
A lot of people still call it toot on Mastodon as well.
I remember you started using Bluesky really early, like you said, and then I think you invited me. I think that's how I got signed up, because I got an invite from you. Because before, in the early days, it was invite only, and I signed up really quick because, like, I always check out new things, and that's cool. But it didn't really stick for me because I was like, Mastodon's fine, and like nobody was on Bluesky, and so I just kind of ignored it until you did this starter pack thing, and all of a sudden I'm getting all these announcements from Bluesky, like notifications that I've got like 30 new followers and 60 new followers. I'm like, what's going on? So I logged in and I'm seeing all this activity, and I'm starting to see names that I recognize from people from Twitter and Mastodon. And I was like, oh man, I guess I actually better complete my profile, because I hadn't even put my name in there, much less an image or anything like that. And so I figured, well, people are going to be following me because of the starter pack thing. Then I guess I better, give them something to follow. So thank you for doing that. It prompted me to really actually take a look at Bluesky again. And yeah. So how did the starter pack thing come about?
The starter packs were a feature that they developed this year. They added them, and it's basically just, it's like a list if you use lists on Twitter at all, but you can share them, and it has a follow all button so that you can follow everyone in the starter pack, or you can just go through one by one and pick the people you want to follow. But you can also share them externally with people who aren't on Bluesky yet, and it shows a little preview of the people that are there and creates a little FOMO of like, there's people you know on Bluesky that are here, you want to be here. And when you sign up through that starter pack, you automatically follow the people in the list, and you immediately have basically your community. You have a feed. You're not faced with that problem of signing up for a new social platform and getting whatever the platform thinks the average person wants to see. Maybe that's like cat pictures or something on Threads or Alex Jones on X. But either way, it's nice just to have the people that you know from all of your communities just right there. And then of course, like, they get notified that you followed them, and they'll recognize you, and you start getting follow backs. And then I add you to the starter pack, and the cycle continues, and you start to get more followers. So
Right.
that's been my strategy to get people off of X, is just like rebuild their audiences for them somewhere else.
Yeah, and it seems to be working. I mean, I'm consistently seeing people showing up who never made it to Mastodon, who are now showing up on Bluesky.
Hundreds of Rubyists at this point have joined through this. I've had a lot of people saying that this is what brought them there. So the starter packs are just a genius idea.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, I was really amused the other day. I was on Mastodon, and this whole starter pack thing, I just think it's been fantastic. Like, I mean, it got me, sucked me in. And like you said, you have this, you can easily follow a bunch of people that are already in your community that you already want to hang out with, right? So I love it. And I just think it's brilliant. And so I was on Mastodon the other day, and someone was talking about, they had brought up the topic of, do we do starter packs for Mastodon? And like, they were getting pushback from other people in the Mastodon community. I'm like, what the heck? Like, this is an obvious, really good way to get engagement. And you're like, nah, we don't want that. No,
Yeah.
we're cool.
I mean, that's kind of on brand for Mastodon. I mean, like, a lot of Mastodon is built like to avoid engagement, to be honest. One of the big differences with between Bluesky and Mastodon is that like Mastodon has resisted any kind of algorithmic feeds, and it's really just a linear feed of people in time. And Bluesky has a completely different approach. Like, they start with several algorithmic feeds that you can subscribe to, kind of like Twitter. So you have they call it Discover. It's kind of like the For You feed, but again, not full of Nazis or whatever else they're putting in there at any given moment. But so there's Discover, and then there's a following one, which is like following on Twitter. It's just the people you're following. But then they have, anyone can create a feed, and that you can create algorithmic feeds. Like, you make up your own algorithms. You can create feeds off of lists, or like, there's a bunch of different ways to compose them. So you could have like a feed for a specific community. Like, I have a feed for Ruby on Rails people, for example. I have a feed for like national security people that I follow for like news and stuff. There's one that's called the Gram, which is just like, it's just a picture feed. So you can get photos, or even maybe like narrow those down to a specific category. So there's like a Catterday feed, which is cats on Saturday. There's just a whole bunch of content and ways to view the content, like, to choose from, unlike Mastodon, which is kind of just, you get basically like one thing.
I think sometimes people forget that. They say, I don't want an algorithm. Well, but actually, the reverse chronological feed, that's an algorithm, right? It's just, we decided that this is the way you're going to see this set of data. And it's okay to have algorithms if you get to choose what the algorithm looks like, right? And I think that's the problem that I ran into with X, was that For You thing was just shoved in my face, and
Yeah.
it had a bunch of junk that I didn't want to see. And I love the chronological feed. That's my default on Bluesky. That's my favorite. But yeah, there are times when I like to go and check out those other feeds. I think I have a news feed, and I have a quiet posters feed. I like that one.
The quiet posters one is like one of the best feeds on Bluesky. It's just a feed that like, it surfaces people who don't post a lot. I have that issue on Mastodon. I miss so much because I don't check it all the time. And I'm not going to go and read through the history of 500 posts since I checked it last. And the quiet posters one is like an answer, it basically shows you the things that you might have missed in there.
Yeah. So I think they've just done an awesome job with the whole, like, having these customized feeds that you can share. And I did use the Twitter lists a little bit, but I ended up just looking at the following feed more often than not. But it just feels like on Blue Sky that there's this around the at protocol, there's this just awesome just amount of activity and just playing, and we're doing fun things. It feels like Twitter back in, the original Twitter days when everyone thought, oh, this is going to be like the communication bus of the internet, right? We can send notifications through Twitter and blah, blah, blah. And all of that didn't happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen with at protocol, but it feels like that. It feels like that same kind of promise.
It's an open protocol that will never be like Blue Sky. The platform could lock itself down in various ways, but it will never lock down the protocol. There will never not be a fire hose. Like Twitter locked down its fire hose and shut down its API. Blue Sky, the platform, maybe they could go off protocol or something and and really mess things up, but people could just move. The other nice thing about Blue Sky that's different from Mastodon is that the data is separate from the actual the service that you use. So when you can migrate your data to you can host it yourself if you want to. Like that's part of the decentralized protocol.
Mhm.
But you can take that with you when you move to a different quote unquote instance of Blue Sky. But like in my experience, it's not like Mastodon where there's 1,000 different instances or servers that you have to choose from. It's really just like, who do you want owning the location where your data is stored? And from there, you can migrate your whole account just transparently. No one knows the difference. You can change your handle. Like everything is done like transparently, mentions update automatically, all that stuff. Versus Mastodon, you can move to a different server, but you have to leave your data behind at the old server, and you can still take your followers with you, of course. But yeah, Blue Sky, just like it's completely abstracted from you. Like you don't have to think about it.
Yeah. When I first signed up for Mastodon, I signed up on ruby.social. Our friend James runs that, and it was cool.
Great community.
Yeah, it is awesome. Love it. But then when I really got into Mastodon, I was like, you know what? This doesn't quite fit exactly the one I want to be in Hacky because I thought that would be a good. And I think that's based in the Pacific Northwest as well. So there's a hometown thing going on there.
Yeah. So Chris Nova started that.
Yeah.
And she ran it in her basement until 30,000 users.
Right. Yeah.
She was also on the board of Blue Sky before she passed.
And she named her servers Yakko, Wacko, and Dot. And I love Animaniacs. So, I mean.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did that move. From Ruby Social to Hacky and it was awkward, right? It's not really a move per se. You're actually like shutting down your old account, and that redirects to your new account. And you might lose some followers on the way and stuff. But the biggest drawback to me was like I really enjoyed hanging out on watching the local feed of Ruby Social. And now I didn't have that option in my client because I'm on the Hacky local instead.
Yeah.
And fast forward a couple of years, now I'm on Blue Sky. I signed up and I used whatever generic handle, bencurtis.bsky. And then I was like, no, wait, I want my domain to be my handle. And so I changed it. And I was nervous because I was like, well, what's going to happen to all my 6 posts, all my 5 followers? And it was fine. It was like transparent. It just worked, right? And because they use a CID that actually references you as opposed to your handle, it's just an alias, and everything just worked. It's awesome.
Yeah, everything references the ID under the hood, which is it's how you can change the just cosmetic things like your name or the domain you're using or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Or the location of your data server.
The one snag is that Blue Sky does not currently have an iPad app. And I do a lot of my reading on the iPad. So it has a great iPhone app and probably, I would say, even better web. I'd say the best experience is on a desktop, actually, because like when you're seeing who follows you, you can hover over their avatar and you can follow from right there, right? You can see a little summary pop up, which I think is fantastic, which you don't get on a mobile device because you have to tap instead. I just wish there was a nice iPad app.
Does the web version not work as well on the iPad, or are there things?
Oh, it's fine.
The things you're missing? Or okay.
Yeah, it's great. No, it's great. Except you don't get the hover.
Okay.
But yeah, I just like having a dedicated app. And I'm sure that at some point, one of the Tapbots crew or somebody is going to come up with a client that actually remembers where you were in the timeline and syncs that across devices. And then I'll probably switch to that then. But for now, I'm fine with just missing some stuff.
There's a bridge for, yeah. Have you seen that? It lets you actually use, you can use any Mastodon client with Blue Sky. So
I saw it, but I didn't know I could do that. So that's,
yeah.
Because I use Ivory.
I know people who use that and seem to like it. So you could try that. But I'm kind of surprised that Tapbots hasn't announced work on a Blue Sky client yet. I know they went all in on Mastodon, and their client is great. Like, it would be awesome to have that for Bluesky too.
Icon Factory has Tapestry, which is not quite out yet. And I missed the window to get in on the Kickstarter or whatever. I can't remember if they use Kickstarter or something else. But they had a thing where you could back them and then you could get early access. And I missed that window. And now I'm regretting it because it sounds like it would be awesome to have that to use both Bluesky and Mastodon on the same app.
Well, Bluesky has a number of third-party clients that people seem to like already, which is nice. So there are multiple clients, but I would say another unique thing about Bluesky is people really seem to like the default app they're building as well. Like I do.
It is quite good.
It's really good. They they hired Dan Abramov. He's been really a big person in React, and the app is a React native app. So they have a team dedicated to working on that, and it's a very good app in my experience. And they're extremely responsive to feedback. Like I've talked to him about bugs and things, and other people have. And he's like, yeah, or he might even say like PR is welcome if it's like a feature request, which is also cool because they are accepting pull requests from all of Bluesky, basically, if it's a good feature you propose and build.
All 20 million users.
It's all open source. Yeah.
Yeah. The web app is fantastic. And I don't usually enjoy using React apps a lot because they break the back button and stuff like that. But Bluesky is great. Like I have zero complaints about that. Just this morning, I saw deck.blue, which is a copy of, what was that? Oh, TweetDeck, which was awesome back in the day. Another casualty of the API wars. So I haven't checked out Deck Blue yet, but it looks, if it does what it says, having TweetDeck functionality, that seems pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, the open protocol and APIs have there's been so much cool development that has happened. There's so many different tools, both clients and other things like that, but also just there's this app Clear Sky, which lets you basically inspect the data because pretty much all data is public on Bluesky. So it lets you inspect the data. You can see what lists you're on, and it's like a tool set basically for looking at your data without having to go wherever I assume it's stored and try to parse all the JSON or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And I guess we haven't even talked about the moderation tools they have, but the moderation tools are just fantastic.
Yeah. I'm not too familiar with them, so I'm interested to hear your take on it. But I do know about the blocking, which is really cool. I thought the implementation was pretty slick. So if someone quote posts you or quote skeet, I don't even know what they call it.
Skeet.
Skeet.
That's one that people say. I say quote skeet or whatever, or quote.
So if someone quotes you and you're annoyed by that, you don't want to see them in your timeline, you block them and it yanks it basically from their thing, from their skeet, right? Which I think is genius.
Yeah. It detached the quote from, it basically eliminates dunking. People can dunk on you, but if you don't want them to, you can detach a single post or you can block them, and it behaves like it should and removes you from that interaction entirely. Yeah, they call it the nuclear block, but also when you block someone, if they're in your mentions or something, it will remove that person from your mentions for everyone that's looking at your post.
Oh, nice.
So you don't end up with a bunch of conversations still happening around this troll or whatever. So yeah, the moderation tools are really nice, and they help prevent some of the bad behaviors I think that people got used to on Twitter, even before Musk, of calling people out and constantly being outraged by things and having to tell you about it.
I've never been popular enough on any social platform for me to have to really worry about that. I've never had anyone, I don't think, dunk on me or try to co-opt my posts for their own agendas. So I haven't had to deal with a lot of the junk that a lot of people have had to, that have prompted these kind of things. But I can appreciate the thought that they put into it, and how I can see how the tools they provide you can help a lot in those situations.
Now that you have these tools, you got to start posting your hot takes, Ben.
I think I have shareable hot takes about as often as I post on my blog.
Nice. I don't think that. Yeah, I don't know if that counts as a hot take.
Yeah, all my spicy shares happen in Slack. I'm not typically public with those things.
Yeah, that's probably a good policy, I'd say. The moderation, they call it composable moderation, but the block is one feature, but they also have a concept of labelers. So these are different moderation services that users can subscribe to and customize how you want them to work. But so there might be like a specific labeler for, maybe like content that doesn't necessarily violate the terms of service in terms of like what people can legally post on the platform, but you might just not want to see it. You might not want to see some trolling, for example, or
maybe like
other
anime artwork or whatever.
Or anime, yeah, anime. And so you could subscribe to a service that is run by other users who, of course, you would want to vet to make sure you're trusting the people, or that you trust the people. But then it actually works like a moderation service, a little bit like Twitter or any other platform does, where they can add labels to accounts, like this account is impersonating someone, or this account is a troll. And you can then choose to hide those accounts or block them preemptively. So they have like block lists where you can, if you don't want any trolls in your mentions, subscribe to a labeler's block list for that category. And anytime someone reports one of those, it gets blocked for everyone. So you don't have to curate your own bespoke block lists anymore of the thousands of accounts that get created just to mess with people, basically.
This reminds me of spam assassin rules that were saved, right? You would share, like someone would detect, and like Spam House was one of the services. I guess it's still around. You can draw on other people's insights onto what is spam, or in this case, trolls or undesirables, whatever.
Yeah, really makes sense. Like, why would everyone have to manage this themselves when you can combine your efforts? And I think it's a really great answer to moderation too, because everyone is not the same in terms of what they want to see and what they don't want to see,
right?
What they can tolerate and what they don't want to tolerate. That's a personal decision, and that's fine. Like Bluesky, the company doesn't take, like, they obviously are moderating, and they're moderating really well in my experience. Like, they have a trust and safety team, and they're like removing illegal and harmful content from the platform. But if you have your own personal preferences about things you don't want to see, I don't think it's appropriate all the time for that to be applied to everyone necessarily. But this basically gives the users that ability to decide for themselves.
Yeah, I really like that. I hadn't thought about that at all, but that's a great point.
That might be all my knowledge on Bluesky. Probably not, but
well, I saw a bit of the labelers. I haven't used it for any filtering. I tend to have a pretty small follow list, so I'm not out there seeing a bunch of content I don't want to see already. But I did see a labeler, and they're talking about, we'll label you with your time zone, and I it was kind of hard to wrap my brain around that. I'm like, I subscribe to your thing, and then you label my things, and yeah, I didn't get that.
This is a fun way that they're being misused. One of the, and this is actually, at least when they first launched them, this might have been used more for this than for actual moderation or something.
Mm-hmm.
But because you can label accounts, people have used them for all sorts of things. So it started out as you could get labeled with like your D&D class, for example, or
right.
Like it would use a classifier of some kind, either like an LLM based one or other classifiers, to like look at your profile when you subscribe to it, and it'll give you a label. So it's a little bit, there was a Harry Potter one that was like the Sorting Hat, basically. So just like fun, there were like some partisan like wars between the people that would get labeled one thing versus another, like fun things, mock wars. And there were like a bunch of these things, but then they started being used for actual like informational things. I don't think Bluesky, the app, I could be wrong about this, but I don't think they have like pronouns like as a top level like bio thing. I can't remember. They might, but people use labelers to basically, like, someone created a labeler that has all the pronouns that anyone would ever want to like list in their bio. And you just like, you can choose yours and it applies that label. And anyone else who subscribes to the label or to the labeler sees that for everyone. But people who don't subscribe to it don't see it. So it's like an opt-in thing. So time zones are another one that I guess that kind of is helpful. If you're talking to a lot of people across time zones, you don't have to go look at their profile to figure out what their time zone is. What was the other one? Oh, there's one that someone made, a GitHub one that will you can have it label you with a GitHub repo that you're a contributor to, but it checks to verify that you're actually a contributor to that repo. So if you're a Rails core developer, you could have like Rails, the GitHub repo, like in your profile so that people can see like what projects you're working on or like what you're affiliated with. And since you trust the labeler, just like you would trust a moderation service, like you trust that's true.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of cool. I put Heya in mine.
Oh, I should do Faker. You should.
You should, yeah.
Put a link in the show notes because I haven't seen that labeler yet. So I follow the labeler. I think there was something about pinning. You pin your choice of time zone in this case. I like that. And then if someone else follows that labeler, then they see that tag for you on your posts. Is that how it works?
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and it's been used for a lot of fun things like that, in addition to useful and then like moderation, safety things. So yeah.
Well, I'm excited. It feels like I said again, like early Twitter, back when all the things were possible, and people were like, "Oh, we could do this, we could do that," and I'm looking forward to it. I got a blog post I saw the other day about using the @ protocol from Ruby, and I'm thinking, well, we can update for Honey Badger. We can update our status pages because we have announcements that we send out to Twitter, so we could add Bluesky to that.
Yeah,
and I'm sure there's much more fun things we could do than just posting status page updates. But that's a good way to play with it, I think.
Honey Badger and FounderQuest are on there. Come find us, but because we've decided as a company not to post on X anymore, including our company accounts, and so Bluesky is like our primary channel for, I think, social media and LinkedIn.
Yeah, I forgot. Like, we also have, beyond our own personal socials, we have business related socials, and they encourage that on Bluesky. Like, here, because you can set your domain as your handle. So there is a @honeybadger.io user on Bluesky, which represents the company versus me and you. Yeah.
We have a very cool domain for our FounderQuest handle. It is founder.quest. You can find us on Bluesky if you search for founder.quest, which is a domain we own.
We need to do now that we have founder.quest, we need to have a TV show.
Yeah,
yes.
That would be, we should do like a whole media show for this. That would be cool.
For sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been kind of fun posting as Honey Badger on there too, because it's a little bit more, it's like a more fun, it's not a corporate environment, even though companies are welcomed. I've been kind of posting, doing more funny stuff than like non-serious stuff than serious on our Honey Badger account. I've done some like meme templates and other things. So Kelsey Hightower of Google and serverless and so many DevOps fame, major celebrity in the tech world, moved to Bluesky and deleted his X account. That was one of the first like big waves of the tech community coming over. So like the broad tech world, it seems, is really deciding on this right now, as well as like journalism and a bunch of other important communities. So I think, the people that are skeptical still about X, that on X or whatever, like, there's a lot of things you hear about Bluesky. It's like, that people just don't want to move. Like, I think it's happening. But Kelsey, like, ended up like quote posting our Honey Badger account at one point, because we were like one of the first companies on Bluesky, I think, that were at least posting. We were doing like some like jokey back and forth, stupid brand engagement nonsense, but it was fun. And it's some of the best engagement I've had on social media with a corporate company account. So I guess my advice, if we're actually going to like talk about something practical here, my advice would be like, if you're in tech or a dev tool or anything like that, or you're like selling something to a tech audience, like don't sleep on Bluesky, because right now there's a lot of people there and their attention is like available. So it's kind of cool.
It's a great time to get involved, and it's fun. It's just fun.
So I have one more question for you. I'm deliberating on something. I happened to be domain shopping last night at like 12:30 a.m. as you do.
That's dangerous.
And I noticed that the domain josh.blue had come available. There's never a Josh, just a Josh TLD. The .blue TLD is a popular one for handles on Bluesky because of the blue.
Sure.
And it was cheap. Like the Namecheap wasn't asking like $2,000 and then like $29 a month or whatever. Yeah. So I grabbed it. So my question is, should I switch to the cool hip short handle with just my first name, or should I keep my OG like joshuawood.net domain that I've had since I'm going to keep it obviously, but this is just for my handle. What's your opinion?
So would you set it like a redirect from josh.blue to go to joshuawood.net, like NDNS
probably,
sort of thing?
Yeah. Probably redirect.
Yeah, I'd do it. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
You can always change it back if you don't like it, right?
This is like for my personal. So my personal account is much different than any account I had on Well, any account I had on X that anyone who listens to this show knew about. It's much more like, I talk about some tech things on there, but it's also like just shit posting and having fun and politics and religion and some things that like not everyone wants to hear about. So I have a separate Honey Badger account for just Honey Badger. So this would be for my fun account that everyone wants to follow.
Your Honey Badger Bluesky handle is josh.honeybadger.io, right?
It's joshuawood.honeybadger.io right now. But yeah.
Yeah, I would do it. Yeah. Josh.blue sounds pretty cool.
I think I might have to do that.
Yeah.
I've always wanted a cool, like one, just my name.
Then you can post the hello fellow kids meme.
Exactly. Yeah. Although the joke is that Bluesky is basically exclusively millennials. Like it might have until recently, probably for whatever reason, like millennials or even the elder or geriatric millennials like myself, the ones that are like the early 80s,
right?
Like really like Bluesky for some reason. And so like in like pretty much all of last year, it was like talking about stuff from the 80s and 90s and like, you remember drinking Surge and yeah.
That's funny.
So,
well, you got to give those geriatric millennials something because they weren't cool enough to be the tail end of the Generation X, which is obviously the best generation out there.
yeah, we got to have something.
No bias here. Cool. This has been awesome. Thanks, Josh. We talked about topics for the podcast and we joked about talking about Bluesky and like, well, we're going to have like 5 minutes of stuff to talk about. It's like, no, it's been great. It's been fun. I've learned some things. So hopefully people listening have as well.
Yeah. Hopefully we haven't rambled about a social media platform for too long.
The too long didn't listen version is go check out Bluesky. It's awesome.
Yeah. Find us there. Cool. Well, this has been FounderQuest, a unique edition of FounderQuest. Find us at founderquestpodcast.com and come follow us on Bluesky at founder.quest. And check the show notes for all the Bluesky lore that we didn't talk about.
Right on. Catch you later.
FounderQuest is a weekly podcast by the founders of Honey Badger. Zero instrumentation, 360-degree coverage of errors, outages, and service degradations for your web apps. If you have a web app, you need it. Available at honeybadger.io. Want more from the founders? Go to FounderQuestPodcast.com. That's one word, where you can access our huge back catalog of episodes. FounderQuest is available on iTunes, Spotify, and other purveyors of fine podcasts. We'll see you next week.